Leo o tātou tau mai, here tātou por kalame le hamo chats mo le nei afi afi. Now, joining us this afternoon or this evening is Sandra Fatu Nu'u, a proud Samoan mother, wife and passionate author of bilingual children's books. Born and raised in Massey, West Auckland, Sandra is one of many proud offspring of the early EFKS church community and now contributes to keeping the Samoan and wider Pacific languages alive for future generations through her writing. Now, through PKB children's books, Sandra and her team have published bilingual readers and storybooks in Samoan, with one series translated into 6 other Pacific languages. So, very honored to have Tufine Sandra on the show this afternoon. It's been a long time coming. We've had this lined up for a while. Ia vi ile tua. Ia o mawhai ona maulewa noa. Tātou te whaasoa. Ia matamaitai tustala. Ia Sandra. So without further ado, a big welcome and talofa lava to the 685 show this afternoon. Sandra, how are you?
Oh man, I'm so humbled. What an intro, bro. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
No worries. Molia tule ngang whaftai. Thank you for making the time. E te whatasi me lunga le tātou por kalame. Ia wafu se whasoa. Ia peona iai le ngaluenga lo e ngalue le temi nei and the gift of writing and sharing stories for our young ones. Before we get into the business end, the nitty-gritty, as they like to say, as we do with all our guests. Yeah, tu atu lava noa, e te oi la sunga Sandra. Whailo, let us know, who is Sandra, where are you from, who do you represent, your villages in Samoa, all of that good stuff, and a bit of background on yourself. Malengang whaloalo.
Oh wow. Whakataila mo le avanoa. Lani, I suppose as always e mua lava na Sylvie inga man whaanetanga tatou whio, tatou te mao le lange me se fo tatou whaolo Yesu Keriso.
Mani.
Ia, moli atu fo le anganga whaafitai a te oi, awa le nei, awanga noa matango fie ua maua le nei a fiafia,
Mani.
o mea le au maua. Ai, ia, o lo uingo, Sandra Fatu Nu'u, o te nofo malala i nei le bito nuu o Ranui, West Auckland.
Let's go.
O lo te mā o au wala whetu, sau mai le nuu o tualii, a o lo tina o le manupalolo, sau mai le nuu o le whanga. Ia, au. Ia, born and raised here in West Auckland. Went to Massey High School, went to West Harbour Primary School, basically been a Westie all my life. So, of course, naturally, eventually, I met my husband out in West Auckland as well.
Yeah.
And he's a Westie as well. And so we also have some Westie Samoan kids. And, man, we're still here. But so this is home. But at the same time, we are still very much Samoan at heart. And like you mentioned earlier, just being brought up in Efakasa, I think really helped to solidify that heritage and the desire to keep speaking and to just try to pass it on to the next generation.
Malofaftai, look, I'm very proud to have a fellow Westie on the show this afternoon. We very rarely get to have our West Auckland brothers and sisters. So as a fellow Westie, I'm going to claim it. I'm going to flaunt it. I'm very proud to have you on the show this afternoon, especially as an alumna of Massey High School. Thank you for sharing that. And I guess kind of moving from there, talk about your upbringing, and obviously in West Auckland as a young Samoan, born and bred here, but also, involved in your church community. How did your upbringing and, family and church life kind of shape who you are today? How has that all kind of led to you today as Sandra the mum, Sandra the young Samoan, Sandra the author, with relation to the work that you're doing?
I think actually in hindsight, it was a huge impact on who I am today because my love for the culture, I don't know. I mean, my parents raised me, they spoke Samoan to us, like most of us say, was always, so it's not like it wasn't in our home, but when going to church, I think the culture, the literacy, reading and writing in Samoan. We know all those suengas and things like that. Really, we didn't like it at the time, but it, man, we hated it. Actually, well, I did.
Yeah.
But served to actually help keep the language because although we don't use it as much as we do English, we can now read and write, which is something we can pass on to others. So. I think it was a big influence on who I am today because everything I do, I think I try to retain the goodness of being Samoan, but still trying to adapt it to the culture that we live in. But we
Totally.
try, right? Yeah. Yeah, so a huge, huge impact.
Yeah, you mentioned like suengas, and man, I know exactly how you feel. I don't think anyone ever looked forward to suengas, maybe like the select few, but it's such a, where whaasoa nei le tāua, or that base, that foundation of knowing your whaitaupi, ato e le whane, all of that. Your tusi lima, even I was horrible at tusi lima, and I don't, but yeah. I guess in relation to that, what were you like? Were you part of the crew that was like always silly and suenga every year, or were you the crew that just pawan me whakaungu'u? Like, what line of the class did you kind of stand in?
Oh man, like I don't want to be that guy, don't want to blow my own horn, but man, there's a couple of them who are still around. Man, one of them's your cousin. He was in my class, Ray. Um, anyway, him and a couple of others. No, but there wasn't a big class. But
Yeah,
I'd say sometimes I was more at the top end. I
yes,
honestly think it's probably because the rest of them kind of didn't. I don't know if they cared much, but
yeah.
uh, yeah,
So you got
yeah.
you got the kuspa ears every year, and
And the best,
the new
and the best.
pese, the new colouring book. I feel you, man. I love that. Well, whawhawhetai. Look, moving into the space that you're now in as a Samoan author and a writer, what inspired you to start writing bilingual children's books? And why you could have written any, you could have been an author for English literature or anything you wanted to write about, but what was it so special for you that you had to really hone in and focus on the Ngangana Samoa?
It was my kids basically when they were younger, and this is like back in 2017, 2018.
Mm.
Like these were my first two kids, older kids, and so I'll try to, what you do as a first time parent, you try to do everything right. You think you need to read to them, all the stuff that everyone tells us to do.
Yeah.
So when I started thinking, I thought, because we used to speak to them in Samoan, and so like we really try, and actually it exercised our Samoan really well. My husband and I, and all our family, we had our grandparents around also. Like
Yeah.
they were real good with that. But so when I thought about it, I thought, far out, we're speaking to them in Samoan. How am I gonna read to them in English? I thought, oh man, this is not gonna work. So that was where it started. I just thought, oh man, there's nothing. I couldn't find much. Well, that was back then. I mean,
Yeah.
there's lots now. So I tried to create my own. Then I thought, man, then it just sort of came like, man, why don't you just publish one?
Yeah.
So eventually, yeah, the rest is history. But that was the reason why I sort of started it, was the demand and the need, what I saw in my kids. I wanted literacy for them. What we got at Suengas, I could,
Mm.
we don't go with Akasa now. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I thought, oh man, gotta do it.
Yeah. Has writing always been like something that you're passionate about? Like were you, through high school and f- older years, later years, were you always an avid writer, or is that something you just picked up, through, wanting to serve your children in that way?
When I look back, I realized that I've always loved writing. I've always, but it was always just English. Like I just enjoyed it as a hobby, and I'll just do journaling. I'll do things like that. Back in high school, did a couple of little articles when they asked for them for the yearbook
Of
or
course.
things like that. But what I found was I really enjoyed it. I was meant to do journalism as a study when I went to uni, but I
Mm.
didn't, which in some ways I regret, but hey, can't change it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was why I ended up doing English as a subject at uni.
Mm.
So yeah, it was always there, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just marrying the two of some like different passions, huh?
Yeah. On the flip side, obviously, and correct me if I'm wrong in assuming there's a love for writing there. I'm assuming that's the same shared love for reading.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What were you into? What were you into? Like, growing up. What kind of literature were you real immersed in when you were growing up?
You know what? I just enjoyed fiction books.
Yeah.
I love fiction books. And I don't know if like back in primary school days, I used to go looking for, do you remember that Goosebumps series?
Yes.
Man, I don't know, but I used to just enjoy that. There was like back at the Babysitters Club, the books and the authors, they weren't as many as they are now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always enjoyed reading it. But I guess back then we never found anything that looked like us.
Yeah.
So when I started finding that as I grew older and in uni days, and you'd find all these far out, I loved them like Albert Went.
Yeah.
He was one purely because I'd read it and I'd be like, far out, I can see myself in here,
Of
a
course.
reflection of who I am. Like, so I really enjoyed those books. And really cool thing is, my daughters picked up that love for reading naturally.
Beautiful.
So I like, oh, hopefully, yeah, God willing.
Yeah. I love that. Look, let's se e mai I le PKB children's books. Can you tell us a bit more about PKB children's books? What is PKB for those who may not know? What does it stand for? And yeah, bit more about PKB.
Sure. So PKB is just the abbreviation or the acronym for Pacific Kids Books, children's books. I I really, to be honest, I'm not like that creative with names, and so it was like, how do I? So yeah, it was just simple. I just had to give it a name in order for it to work and make it a bit easier. Who are we? Well, we just basically write and produce children's books in bilingual languages. Now that we specialize in Samoan, and now sort of branched out to other languages, and realizing that there is a shortage in other languages as well. And
Course.
I would love to see, say, maybe more Cook Island literature out there because
Yeah.
I found there was a shortage. Yeah, and I was thinking, we. To be honest, I felt like, okay, I don't really want them buying these languages from me. I would love if I could have a writer specifically for
For
those
each.
languages because it'll be so much more, I don't know, what the word genuine or
Yeah,
I don't.
but
Yeah.
there's um a level of authenticity required
Yes.
to
Yeah.
fully service that, and I love that you shared that. Um, the whole process, because for many years, and it's different nowadays. A lot of our uh, Pacifica authors have access to a lot more resources, and putting a book out is much more, I guess, accessible compared to back then. You had to get like a full-on publishing company and all of that. Can you maybe share a bit about what that whole the background process is like? Because I can imagine it's not easy, but obviously there is a bit more accessibility now compared to back in the days. How does one go about um, writing a book, or writing a Samoan language book, and especially for kids? And how do we go around the things that we have to navigate?
Okay. No, that's cool. I think, like you said, man, it's much easier these days. And so basically, it's like, man, if you've written a story, um, get it. One thing I learned again after doing a couple, I was like, oh, I gotta go do this again. I gotta go do, is get it edited, get someone to
Right.
check over it, make sure you got that, translators. Then it's looking at just making sure. So those things like, you're getting your ISBN numbers lodged with the libraries. If you're
Right.
lucky and you're able and you can get a foot in the door with the libraries, that's
Mm,
one awesome thing is to see your books out there,
yeah.
out here, it's so cool. And knowing that kids are reading them. Another thing is, I guess the biggest thing that might put many people off sort of producing your own books is the printing.
Right.
Mainly because that's the most costly of the costs. And there is funding out there, though. Like you said, there are definitely more resources out there. And so, man, find some funding. Pacific People's had some, your local councils have some, and Creative New Zealand also have some.
Right.
And so there are places you can go to get those costs, like, help you out.
Yeah.
But I would say that would be probably the biggest thing. Maybe is your printing, and then following that would be just putting it out there. and marketing it and all that sort of stuff. But
Yeah,
I tell you what's one of the things that beyond the hard things beyond it is as a Samoan is marketing your own work.
of course.
I do, man, I don't know how people do it, but I do not like doing it. It's been a real struggle. So that's a definite work on. Maybe it's even for those who are looking to do it. If you're good at that, like keep that in mind because that
Yeah.
will help you go further. But also, like, if that's a word of advice, because that's something I'm still working on. So if you're good at that, man, that's going to be a real asset to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep it in mind because it will help, I suppose.
I want to kind of take a step back and for those who are tuning in on the live stream, check out the graphic that's now up. I want to ask about this book, Tanielu the Brave, which is one of the books that is kind of part of this package that you've prepared. And I want to ask, where do you find the inspiration for your stories? Because, like, are they inspired by, like, is Tanielu inspired by someone, or, do you have people in your family who are like, that, that you draw inspiration for stories? Like, where does that come from?
I think for this, generally, it's just who's around me, which are usually my kids, like, because they're,
Right.
so that Tanielu the Brave would be, it's one of my sons. And he was, man, growing up, he was an awesome, he's 12 now, but growing up, he was an awesome league player. He was just a real natural. And then but then something changed. And so anyway, we'll keep telling him, son, you can do it. Son, it's in you, but you got to understand and believe, that it's possible. You can do it. Anyway, it's been that kind of walk with him. And so
Yeah.
in writing that book, it was basically what we are. I don't know, it's almost like you speak that over your own children, eh?
Of course.
Until they get to that, like to the stage where they fully can understand and believe in what you can see and calling it out.
Yeah. Um, does your son know that Tanielu the Brave is kind of loosely based on him?
You know what? He read it and I never told him. And when he read it, he looked up at me and he said, "Is this me, Mum?" And I was like, "Don't know."
I
And
love
now I
that.
guess if he watches this, yes, he will.
He knows now. He knows now. No, that's beautiful, man. Look, out of all the books that you've written so far, do you have a personal favorite? And what makes, if so, what makes that stand out for you?
Definitely the Taniru the Brave. And I think what I really like about this book is it's encouraging children to do what they think they can't do and to overcome fears that they have, in regards to it might be rugby, like in that book, it's about rugby,
Yeah.
but, in whatever area of life that they might be facing. And so it really is a book about courage, and being able to come out of that. And I see a lot of and hear a lot of things about bullying, eh? And so
Of course.
it's a terrible thing to hear our kids having to go through these things. And man, parents on parents, it's just continued stories. So, and this is a story for younger children, but it's sort of getting in there while we can, giving
Yeah.
them encouragement before the world gets to them and tells them otherwise.
Yeah. How many books have you published to date since the inception of, or since the start of your work up until now?
Um, 15, but in saying that, 15, but the 12 of them are three series of short readers to be able to simply translate from Samoan to English, or the very basic, and then three storybooks, which are a bit more, yeah.
I want to kind of maybe swivel a little. You mentioned your upbringing in the church, and even to this day, your whole family is a young Christian family, and I want to ask in terms of your faith and how that has played a part in your role as a writer and as a mum, as a storyteller, as a leader in your family. Can you share a bit about that?
Sure. I like to think that because we all, as Samoans, everyone was Christian, eh?
Yep.
Everyone was Christian, and so I'd like to think that there is a new breed of Christian coming from our generation these days,
Right.
and it is a Bible believing Christians.
Mm.
We actually kakala the Bible and we actually read it, and
Mm.
we are actually looking, going, okay, that doesn't look right, and I think I got to follow this, and I think I got to change that.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where I am, I suppose, in my life at the moment. Is just that's how I suppose I do everything. Well, I try to do everything, even including the books,
Mm.
raising my kids,
Yeah.
being a wife. Learning how to submit. Because there's the woman power and the independent woman kind of narrative is pretty strong these days. But
Yeah.
it's coming back to what the word says
Yeah.
about our roles. And so it's walking that way. And so I think in light of that, when I look and write these books, um, I'm just trying to keep a simple narrative,
Mm.
but an encouraging one, one that will speak life towards our kids, but also not Bible bash. You know what I mean?
Of
Like,
course.
yeah, like it's
Of course.
I'm not writing a Bible. I'm just writing stories, but the light of Christ to come through that. And
Yeah.
I mean, I hope and pray that that's what it does.
Speaking of that, because I know we grew up, in Sunday school, and I hate to bring it back to Suenga, but as times progressed, we would have, in addition to the kuspaia and the new pese and the painting set and the colouring set, there was, I remember reading like a small, like Samoan, very simplified Samoan Bible, or Bible stories in Samoan. Is that something you've potentially considered as an avenue with regards to your writing and your publishing?
Interesting you asked that. I have spoken to my husband about that. I have actually had that thought, and um, it would just be a matter, I suppose, of just praying about it and making sure it's not my ideas. It's
Of
like, we
course.
can get carried away with our own ideas, but
Mm,
just sort of praying about it. But I would love to,
mm,
if it was just my decision, man, I would have loved to,
yeah.
try to make the pictures really cool,
Mm,
like and make the kids want to read it.
yeah.
Like I know they got that in English, and I know they also got some Samoan ones out there, like a Samoan children's Bible.
Mm,
But hey, you can always have heaps of different versions and things that might tailor to different children.
yeah.
I'd love to do that. That would be awesome.
It's interesting you bring up illustrations or the drawings and the pictures. Do you do that yourself, or do you have like a team in PKB that solely focus on the illustrations and you're just on the writing? What's that dynamic like?
So most of the illustrations are me using the tech that we have.
Right.
And so that's what it's been like over the years. Because another big fee, apart from printing, is illustrations.
Of
So
course.
for anyone out there who knows, they know this. But I have worked with some other authors, sorry, illustrators, which was really nice because that part of it was for those particular books, I didn't have to worry about doing those.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. Yeah, a couple of the books I did. I even had one of my sisters do one of them, which was really nice, just to, help her kind of like try to, because she's actually quite good at drawing. So
Right.
I said to her, why don't you just try, doing this for me?
That's crazy. And I want to ask, because I know you, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but for some time you were a staff member, you were the Pacifica Student Liaison Officer at the Media Design School. Um,
Yes.
and were you at a time, were you learning how to like design? Is that where you've kind of picked up these skills of learning how to animate and illustrate? Is that where you've picked that up along the way?
I think partly,
Mm,
yes, because when I did start there, I had started the first one, but it was like trying to pick up how to do these things in a better manner. And that's actually where one of the students was there at the time, illustrated one of the books.
awesome.
And because that was what they did. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty cool. Like it was actually really nice to collab like that.
You've mentioned briefly on some of the challenges that an author faces on a daily basis in terms of bringing all of these ideas and all of this mahi together. There might be someone who's tuning in this afternoon who wants to pursue that same kind of avenue in terms of being an author or authoring Samoan literature. What are some of the challenges that you faced in your journey that, might be of, I guess, a whaleaonga or a lesson for, some of our listeners who might be considering the same route?
I think one of the best things I would advise, or is to connect with someone who's done it, or people who've done it. When I first started, I think even actually when I say when I first started, and even now, it's quite hard to find a community that does what you do and are open to share those ideas.
Of course.
Not everyone wants to share it. So finding someone who's done that before will, I think, help you largely, because they can just point out the pitfalls of where, hey, don't do that, do this. Oh man, that took me ages, and don't do that because that costs a lot of money, or this will save you money. So that is definitely one thing if you're thinking about doing it, and you would love to do. Many of the people out there probably already have on their heart, like, man, I want to do this, or I've written the story, I just haven't done the rest.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's about connecting. And like, I don't look, I ain't no award-winning author. Hopefully in the, brackets, it's yet.
One day,
Please,
please, day, it'll happen.
But man, I don't mind being a place of where if anyone wants to reach out and go, hey, would you mind walking me through the process? What did you do for this? Man, honestly, because it's quite a small, well, from what I've seen, it's not a big community, and even when you do sort of touch base with people, everyone's kind of guarded about what they want to share. But honestly, and especially in the light of what I do and how I think we should do things, is always to be open and to share that information.
Amen.
You don't know that you're holding back the next Albert Went, or hey, and you could just be the person just telling them, hey, do this, do that. And then that's your part in their journey.
Yeah.
But hey, at least you were a part of it, and man, help them to get where they need to go. Because we can't all be Albert Went,
Amen. I love that sharing. So I think one of the things that what I'm hearing is there's space for all of us. There's space for all of us to flourish. And I believe it not only in the literature space, but in every space that we as young Samoans and Samoans in general occupy. There's always enough space for all of us to win, all of us to eat, all of us to get along, and I agree with your sentiments. Looking ahead, however long, whether that be short term, mid-term, long term, what's next for you, and what's next for PKB? What's the bigger picture look like for you?
I'll be honest, man, I can't even believe I want to say this on air, because normally, like, my husband always calls me the realist, and he's the visionary.
Yes.
So I will always be like, nah, I can't think that far. But to be fair and honest, if we're going to dream, I'd love to have a publishing company one day. Why? Because people like myself and people out there who can't go through your traditional publishing companies,
Right.
or, maybe just people who won't be able to get in front of these publishing companies, be able to make a space for everyone, like you said, make a space for everyone who has the talent and has the gift and just needs somewhere to go, and they will go, hey, like, here's how you do it, here's what you want to do, and we'll put this out for you, but not take too much of the cost. If you need a cost to publish it, sure, but don't cut the cheese too big. Don't try to, you know what I mean? Like, basically just help other people do what they need to do, and sort of do our part, or do my part in that. I'd love to do that. So that's the dream. And God willing, one day.
One day. Beautiful. I think that's very, and I love the bracket yet, award-winning. It's on its way. The publishing is on its way. Speaking it into existence, speaking life into it. Before we wrap up, just want to give the opportunity, any kind of final words of advice to any of our tupulanga, especially our tupulanga who are listening in. Any words of advice, and also any alofa-angas you want to make to any friends or family or supporters or any of your team who might be listening in this afternoon.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a big one. Final words. I think, everyone has been given gifts and talents. Yeah. And, even if you think you have nothing, you're going to have something that you enjoy doing. I'm a big believer that if you just use that one talent that you have, multiply it, man, you know what? You don't know if you'll be given more talents, but you got to start with the one. And I've also been thinking about we can have a lot of knowledge about a topic or things that we want to do, but if we don't have the wisdom to do it and get on there and start, you're not going to go anywhere. You'll just be, just as much as the person who doesn't know anything about that topic. So if you've got a lot of knowledge, a lot of talent about something, man, give it a go. Especially for our younger generation, um, maybe come off the social media, come off the phones, and start thinking about long term what you want to do. Think more about, um, man, life's got way more than just being on online and on screen and what people think about you. A lot of things that we can do is just, I'll give this one advice, Kay. I don't want to be, politically incorrect for many, but man, open your Bible, find out who you are in Christ.
Right.
The problem with our generation today is they are looking for affirmation from different places, and that
Right.
comes from online people, what they say. I'm telling you, you will find your worth if you just open and start reading. That's my biggest advice. And alofa oh man, to my husband, my children, my parents, my siblings, friends and family, and all those who've ever kept us in prayer. Thank you. And yeah, and also thank you, brother, for having me on. Really appreciate this time and space to share and talanoa. Yeah, really grateful. Whawhitai, lava mo le awanoa.
Malofa Fitai. As a final note for anyone listening in or who will get to view this interview, where can we get our hands on a book or a series of books or any of the books that you've published under PKB?
Okay, we have them. So if just jump onto our Facebook page, which is basically the name PKB Children's Books, and you'll be able to get in touch with us there, purchase it.
Malofa Fitai. Hey, look, Sandra, on behalf of the 685 show and our PM Samoa team, just want to say a big thank you. Mole atulenga ang whawhitai. Again, mole whaavanoa ina lau taimi. A maise le oa ma le whaasoa I le nea whiawhi. Just the gems you've been able to share with us from your personal journey, and the hope is that someone who is listening on who will see this interview is moved in a way where we could see or hear from the next Albert Went, or it might be the nugget that kind of pushes the next Albert Went or the next Sandra Fatu Nu'u. And so mole atulenga ang whawhitai. We will be doing a giveaway of some of Sandra's books on PMN Samoa, Instagram and Facebook, so do stay tuned for that. But go ahead and follow the journey on Facebook, PKB Children's Books. The link is in our Facebook description and the link will be in the bio. But yeah, wishing you all the best, sis, and looking forward to reading many more new creations and seeing the amazing work that you do come to life. And so with that, we wrap up our Hamo Chat segment for this afternoon.